Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Whalebone Theater by Joanna Quinn. Set in post-World War I England, The Whalebone Theater by Joanna Quinn follows the Seagrave children as they discover a whale that has been washed up on shore, and they create an outdoor theater from its skeletal ribcage. It's here the children can let their imaginations loose and be anything they want to be. Years later, with the arrival of World War II, the Seagrave children are now adults, facing a war that may tear them apart. For two of the siblings, they turn into British secret agents, where the play acting of their childhood now turns into a play acting for survival. Ooh, yeah guys, what an incredible, mesmerizing book. I loved this book, and I think I ended up giving it 5 stars on Goodreads. And don't let this god-awful, terrible book design deter you from picking up this incredible masterpiece. Yeah, guys. Seriously, who let this cover design pass? Because it is truly terrible. So yeah, this is definitely an instance of don't let a book cover, kind of judge your opinion. Don't judge a book by its cover. At the heart and core of this novel, it follows the 3 Seagrave children post-World War I up through the events after World War II. First up is Christabel Seagrave. She is kind of the wild child. She's the one who's a bit more opinionated, a bit more tomboyish. She's not going to take no shit from anybody. She has no desire to conform to the norms of society, the norms of her social status are, and what the norms of her being a woman are. The second Seagrave child, Digby, he is the heir. He is the much-awaited heir to their grand estate. It's been a long time coming for a male heir. He's kind of this thread that keeps the whole family together in some ways. And then the third Seagrave child, Flossie, she's kind of the sweet, intelligent one, kind of quiet and demure. Yeah, she's the one who wants to branch away and unwind herself from kind of the influence of her mother. Her mother kind of expecting her to be a certain way. She has this image of her, So yeah, at the core of this novel is definitely the 3 Seagrave children, kind of them as individuals, but more than anything, the very close relationship that all 3 Seagrave children have together. They come from this rather dysfunctional family in some ways. I'm not going to get into the specifics of their parentage, but yeah, they all kind of have different kind of combos of like moms and dads, but they're all still siblings technically through the family tree, kind of bizarrely enough. Yeah, this book starts, like I said, it starts pretty much at the end of World War I, and we go through the events of World War II and then through the conclusion of that. And this is a massive book, you guys. The edition that I have is around 550 pages, and there is a lot going on in this novel. A lot to the point that it almost seems like this book is 2 separate books. And I definitely saw that as a big complaint on other Goodreads reviews, that there's the people who really enjoyed it like I did, and then the people who didn't like this book so much. A big common complaint was definitely the fact that this is it feels like 2 separate books on occasion, when it could have been 2 totally different stories. You either have just the whole entire ending and you cut out the first half, or you just entirely focus on the first half. For me, even though the front and back half of this book do read almost like 2 entirely separate books at times, the thing is that didn't destroy my absolute entertainment and enjoyment of this book. The events of what's happening in the front half of the book, those events are very pivotal and integral to informing who the Seagrave children are, and what they grow into, and kind of their ideals and beliefs and whatnot. And a big part of this book definitely has to do with the fact that during this time period in Europe, especially in England and whatnot, during this time period, post World War One, and then as you're kind of leading into World War Two and whatnot, this is a really kind of turbulent time period socially in some ways. It's during this time period that the class system is very heavily kind of fluctuating, that the upper classes, the upper classes who have maids and butlers and chauffeurs and footmen, people who serve their every whim, that class system is kind of decaying and falling apart, and yet these once grand, lavish estates are also kind of falling apart in a sense. These estates are getting harder and harder to maintain and control and to even staff for the most part. So what you see at the very start of this novel is the Chilcombe estate, which the Seagrave children live at. You see this grand, luxurious estate kind of at its prime in a sense, as World War One concludes. And the Seagrave family, they live lavishly, they spend lavishly, they have lavish meals and clothing, they invite lavish people to their parties and whatnot, This is almost a time period that's it's a bygone era, it's very much a bygone era that has this kind of sense of being really casual and relaxed, and like people have no cares in the world, like this lifestyle is going to be forever and nothing's ever going to tear it down, kind of this time period where I think that group of class is kind of taking things for granted in some ways. So that definitely helps inform the Seagrave children at the start of this novel, that they come from this world that is very extravagant and rather flamboyant in some ways. So yeah, what you get here at the start of this novel, the front half of the book, when it does focus on the Seagrave children as they were children, there is kind of this very whimsical nature to it on occasion, just really whimsical and bizarre and flamboyant and flashy. It's just all done very interesting and whatnot. I really liked what Joanna Quinn was kind of doing there, because it contrasts quite nicely. It contrasts quite nicely to the much more darker and serious tone and nature of the second half of the book. But yeah, before I do get into the second half of the book, the front half, once again, because this is called the Whalebone Theater, one day the Seagrave children, they're just, walking around on the beach. They come across a poor whale that's been, washed ashore. It's dead. And yeah, Christabel gets this bright idea like, hey, I want to take its ribcage and turn it into an outdoor theater. Yay! So that's another big part of this book, since once again this is called the Whalebone Theater, is the bits of performance and stagecraft that happen at the Whalebone Theater. And once again, this whole thing definitely informs the Seagrave children, who they are as children and then who they become as adults and whatnot. The children love being on the stage and they love performing, and yeah, Christabel, more than anything, she really loves to direct and whatnot and boss people around. So then, yeah, that leads quite nicely kind of into the second half of the book, because then two of the children, Christabel and Digby, who are now adults during World War II, they get recruited during the war to become British secret agents. So that requires a whole different type of play acting. So yeah, the play acting of their youth as children, where they were doing that for fun and entertainment, they kind of have to take that and adapt it. And yeah, the play acting now as adults, as they're, amongst Nazis and whatnot, this is a play acting for survival and manipulation and to help out with resistance groups and whatnot. So once again, you have the front half of the book, which focuses on the Seagraves as children and yeah, the creation of the Whalebone Theater, and then you have the second half of the book, which then takes place during World War II. All of Nazi Germany, all of that, Christabel and Digby now becoming British secret agents. So yeah, this novel, there is definitely a big huge split, in terms of kind of the storytelling, once again, the front half being really whimsical and kind of bizarre in nature, and the second half all of a sudden this dramatic shift being a lot more darker and serious in tone. But yeah, that common thread of the theater and whatnot. And I think another aspect of this book that I think what you're kind of supposed to take from this book is kind of the importance of art, the magic of art, if you will, whether that is the art, like physical artwork, or a book, or a movie, or watching a play, you know. Various different characters enjoy and appreciate art in their own way, and art speaks to them differently. And there's a moment kind of near the end where Christabel, she sees a production of Antigone, and there's something about the production that really kind of gets to her and moves her, and she just starts thinking about, you know, resistance and resiliency and hope in the future, you know, the importance of all of that. And yeah, this one play gets her to think about all that, to think deeply, you know, and to kind of think what's important in her life. So yeah, overall, I just absolutely loved this book, you guys. I found it to be remarkable and mesmerizing, moving, emotional, and like I keep saying, kind of the front half of this book being just so whimsical in nature and creative. And Joanna Quinn, she even has some creativity with the writing style, the writing format of some things kind of going on in this book. Let me see if I can show you a few pages. There's a point in the novel where all of a sudden you're just reading, then all of a sudden there's all this blankness, and then like just writing over here. So like there's a format change right there that's really interesting. Sometimes there'll just even be moments like this that almost look like you're reading lines from a script and whatnot, which matches up quite nicely to this book since it has a lot to do with like theater and performance. There's even huge chunks of this book where it's just back and forth letters between the characters of Christabel and Digby and Flossie and even some of their servants. And then there's even like this little sequence right here. As you can see, the writing kind of is doing some stuff right here, kind of going in and out. And then I want to say there's even a section somewhere in here where the writing is kind of just all in a zigzag sort of pattern and whatnot. So I liked kind of how creative the format of this book also was, especially in the front half. If I did have to issue one complaint that I had with this novel, I was a little frustrated by the very end where there's just kind of some characters missing in action, I feel like. And it's like I wanted some like confirmation of like what happened to some of these specific characters. The book kind of ends and they're not really brought up again at all. So it's kind of like, well, what happened to them? I need to know. I'm dying to know what happened to these particular characters. Yes, they're like very minor supporting characters, but it's like they're still characters that were very important to like our main characters, and it's like I want to know what happened to these people. Joanna Quinn, why did you leave me hanging? But yeah, other than that, I just had such an incredible, remarkable time with this book. I loved it immensely from start to finish. I adored all three of the Seagrave children. I loved the supporting cast of characters, kind of everybody's function and service within the narrative and how they all relate to the Seagrave children and their journeys. This is definitely what I would call a work of literary fiction. It's a novel that explores life and death, love within families, love of art, love of theater. It's definitely a coming of age story for the Seagrave children, how their earlier life informs who they become as adults and what they take with them. So yeah, it's a coming of age story. It's a story of war. It's a story of hope and resilience. It's a beautiful work of art, I think, you guys. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on The Whalebone Theater by Joanna Quinn. In the comments below, have you guys read The Whalebone Theater? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.